great, thanks. Let's go ahead and call the Management and Internal Services Committee to order. Today's Tuesday, May 10th, and it is 10 a.m. by the clock. Please bow your heads with me as we open with prayer. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the great county in which we live. Pray that you would continue to bless it, continue to protect it. Please give us the wisdom to make the right decisions today. Have a good, healthy debate. I ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
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 Please join me in the pledge. Billy, you got something to say? I was at the service yesterday of honoring years, folks who've been with the county, and you've been with the county 40 years. Congratulations. We have a full quorum. Gentlemen, the minutes from the previous meeting are in your book from April the 12th. There are no corrections or changes. I'll accept the motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
As well, you have the agenda. Anything need to change, Scott? Are we good?
Not to my knowledge, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Any presentations? Anybody? On to the consent agenda, which I see nothing, so straight to the debate. Okay, Ms. Reese, is that yours? First one on that appointed agenda?
I can take these for the
Appointed
juvenile
officials?
court.
Yes.
They have several just routine agreements that we need to get approved. The first one is for Brenda Taylor. This is for court reporting services. She works 1 day a week for $1,506.20 per month. She is an independent contractor, and this will be renewed for the period of July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2017.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to make the motion that we approve all of these as listed, and I will list them. Brenda Taylor for $1,506.20 per month. Charles Evans for $1,666.67 per month. William Fleming, $2,291.67 per month. Kathleen Connor for $1,000 per month. Haley Kitchens at $1,000 per month. Margaret Adams for $1,600 per month. Sandra Swanson for $1,250 per month. Clara Brown for $1,250 per month.
That was in the form of a motion.
Yes, sir. And consent.
Right.
I will second. I just wanted to ask a quick question. You in most of these, you list that this is our contribution to the circuit of the 3 counties of us and Burke and Richmond. You list Burke in several of them. I don't see Richmond's. These are supplemental payments, basically, that we as a county have the agreement. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to everyone.
That's correct. And if Burke is a participant, then we invoice them, and they pay us their portion.
They are officers of the state Superior Court.
Well, the juvenile.
Juvenile.
Well, the juvenile court, which is division of the Superior Court, so, of the circuit. Okay, just wanted to be clear that this is
The
just
situation you have
supplemental.
here, Richmond County has such a large juvenile court that they're very independent. So there are times when us and Burke County, although we're in the same district or same circuit, we share some services. But Columbia County, deals with a lot of our own services as well. So that's the reason you don't see them listed. Richmond County's, although it's all in the same circuit, they are a much different budget, the way they handle theirs.
Gotcha. Thank you. So, second.
On the consent, so approved. Scott, you got a...
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is just a presentation for your information. As you know, each year we do an annual salary study prepared by our internal auditor, Serrata Maddox Evans and Company. I have a summary here for you that I'll just go over briefly, and then a few highlights that I wanted to make, and then if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer those. First is the validity of the salary matrix. We noticed that there were some minor differences noticed in the annual rates. and the hourly rates, therefore, all the annual salary amounts were updated to match the corresponding hourly rates in each grade, to make sure we were comparing apples to apples there. We would recommend that the salary matrix changes become effective July 1st, 2016. We typically, that the salary changes become effective July 1st, 2016. As far as job class, we had 14 pay grades that were recommended for increases this year. 6 of those pay grades had no recommendations. There are some that do have recommendations. Those are included in your packet, and we would recommend that those changes be effective February 2017. To maintain the classification balance and to avoid compression when changing these positions, it's recommended not to increase the positions more than 1 pay grade per year. There are situations where we have to do that. There's an exception to the rule, and we actually have one of those here this year and another one that we plan to address in the budget that I'll talk about in just a second. And then the benefit package, the county is compared to all of our benchmark counties, and we find that we have a highly competitive benefits package when compared to the average. This obviously helps us with recruitment and retention of our employees. You can go through the salary study. If you have any specific questions, I'll be glad to ask those, but you have all the benchmark counties listed, and you have what the recommendations are. I will say for the first time this year, in several years, it seemed that Columbia County was, I won't say behind, but lagging somewhat in some of these positions. Typically, we fell kind of right in the middle of the salary matrix for our benchmark counties. For some reason, our benchmark counties have outpaced us a little bit in some of the positions that were studied this year. So we do have recommendations. With the approval of the salary study, we also ask that you, as part of the budget process, there is monies available budgeted to the HR line code that will allow us to implement these changes that we have in the salary study. So there's no additional budgeted dollars. You've been made aware of all the budgeted money that we're asking for. I did say that there were a couple of outliers. We had one position this year that was, we thought it would be, which is why we included it. It was really far out of the pay grade that it should have been, and it was a supervisor's position. And we found out that the incumbent salary here in Columbia County was much less than all of the benchmark counties. So we're going to address that in the budget as an individual item. So we'll bring that to you. I think Leanne's going to talk about those individual items when we get to the budget piece. But that kind of gives you a brief summary of it. Again, we do this every year. We go through, survey our benchmark counties. Serrata Maddox Evans does a good job of making sure they get all the data and compiling it well for us. So at this time, I answer any questions that you may have for me.
Are we affected anyway? USDOL is coming down with some regulation. I think it's like the 16th of May, which would be Saturday.
We've been watching that. If you're talking about the one about the exempt employees, is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
There's been a lot of speculation out there about how that's going to go. Congress was actually working on that, and then the president said he would do it by executive order. So we're still waiting to see exactly how that's going to flesh out. That may be a budget item for us, or maybe an issue that we have to continue with next year's budget, basically because people that are exempt and under certain salaries will now have to be paid overtime.
They're salaried employees, right, but my understanding is that would potentially go into effect with like July 1st-ish or July 15th.
That's been the issue. We've been watching lots of publications. Our HR department has been very involved in this. I know Mr. Kennedy's been watching this. I've been watching it. We've been getting lots of publications, but it's a magical day. There was no
legislation or executive
No,
action.
So I mean, the president could sign an order tomorrow and make it effective July the 1st, but it keeps getting pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. So I think there's a lot of political posturing.
This is the fourth branch of government writing law and imposing it like law. So.
Right. But we're aware of that, so we'll be watching for that. But we're not going to, I didn't think it was prudent for us to budget for something that may happen. And we just don't know. They've been talking about this for over 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
I move for consent.
Second.
So moved. Glenn?
Sure, the next item is an RFP for the Employee Wellness Biometric Occupational Health and Drug Screening Services. If you recall, several weeks ago, this came before you, but it had been combined with the on-site clinic. After some discussion with the county administrator, after that was pulled from the agenda, we went ahead and went back and looked at it and pulled the on-site clinic out of that RFP with the intent for that to be reintroduced with a more specific RFP later in the year. So this portion only deals with the employee wellness and biometric occupational health and drug screening. So it was reevaluated, and the team came back, and MedNow Urgent Care was the highest scoring respondent based on the cost and technical approach. And if approved, this agreement will commence on 1 July and expire June 30th, 2018 for an initial term of 2 years and 3 one-year renewal options. Staff recommends approval.
Motion for consent. I think good job on breaking that down for us. I think that'll work out a little better, because I am curious to see how the on-site's gonna come out.
Second.
So moved.
Next item is an RFP for the temporary workers and payroll services for temporary workers. This RFP was open on February 10th to receive proposals. We received 6 proposals, and we elected to release the RFP for a second round due to the number of firms receiving not receiving the initial notification. This, when it was all said and done, and the rankings were made, the rankings turned out to be in favor of the vendor that we currently have. In discussions, I know there's one issue this morning, or that came up earlier this week, with the percentage markups. Currently, they're all at 32, but the question came up from Commissioner Duncan about the payroll portions of that, whether or not they could be reduced below 32%. If you would like to do this, the recommendation would be to go ahead and, if you're in agreement with it as it is, go ahead and move this to the debate agenda at the commission meeting, and then staff can come back. That'll give us time to go back and see if we can reduce it below 32% for the payroll.
Payroll side, right.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a good recommendation.
Move to consent?
Nope.
No.
Move for debate.
All right.
I approve his motion.
Second.
So moved. Thanks, Glenn, that's good work.
Sure.
Ms. Reese, Internal Services.
The first item I have for you is an agreement for sourcing and contract software. You're probably aware that procurement has been trying for years to find a software that can take us from the solicitation side with the bid and the RFP all the way through to implementing a contract. We have tried numerous softwares in the past and just have had no luck. So they've spent the past, 6 to 9 months researching various software programs that are available to governments. They narrowed it down to 9 different systems and assessed each of these systems. They have come back and made a proposal to enter into an agreement with Periscope Intermediate Corporation. They have both the solicitation process as well as the contracting, and this will allow us to do bids and RFPs online electronically instead of having them submitted manually the way they currently are. We will also have access to a database of at least 750,000 vendors and suppliers, which will make the procurement process more competitive and hopefully get us better prices. Last month, you did approve a contract or an agreement to become a member of the Purchasing Solutions Alliance. That purchasing cooperative does allow an 8% cost savings with this contract. So we are recommending that we enter into an initial 3-year agreement with Periscope with 3 one-year options to renew, utilizing the Purchasing Solutions Alliance membership.
It's renewed annually. We have the option.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we do have the money in this year's budget to cover the first, all of next year, and then in next year, when we work on next year's budget, we'll enter and you see the costs there on the page.
Move for consent.
Second.
So moved.
The second item I have is Resolution 16-1234, authorizing the sale of surplus personal property via public auction. Our county code authorizes the county administrator to deem items to be surplus that are unusable or obsolete, and we can then sell these items. However, the code does require that any method that we utilize be approved by the board. We currently have resolutions allowing us to use govdeals.com and to utilize the recycling center. Ever since our new fleet services manager came on board, we have been working diligently to clean up the yard out there around the fleet shop and around roads and bridges. There are quite a number of old vehicles, tractors, lawnmowers, pieces of equipment, and we just think if we utilize an auction, we can bring in more revenues, generate more interest in the sale. So we would like to try that to clean up some of the old stuff we have out there.
We ever done that before? Ever? Back in the old days, or?
I think years and years and years ago.
Public
we
auction?
did,
I
or we did
think-
sealed bid process.
Yeah, you can do the seal, you can have the items out there and do a sealed bid process, but to actually do an auction, there may have been one done, but the ordinance doesn't allow it specifically, so that's why we're asking for this resolution. And I think it would be good, we get a lot of public interest to be able to do that, and obviously we'll supervise that auction as well.
Move for consent.
Second.
So moved. Thanks, Ms. Reese. Anything else? That it?
That's it.
In legal matters? Good boy. Deputy County.
He's billing us anyways.
You don't have to rub it in. Lynn, is this you?
The next item is the FY 15 to 16 Personnel Savings Report. That's in there for your information. It just gives you a rundown of the BOC and elected official general fund savings to date. Subject to your questions.
Leanne?
I have several reports for your information, the first one being the year-to-date budget report. This is as of April 30th, 2016. We should be operating around 83% of our budget. I do have listed here on your rec sheet several of the major funds for your information. Please do not get too excited when you look at the excess in the general fund. We do have several year-end adjustments that will be made. I do anticipate we will be adding to fund balance, but I don't think it'll be $8 million. So.
Well, we can't say good job then, right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Even with the adjustments to come, wanted to commend staff on the streetlights. The fact that we have straightened up that account is a credit to everybody that worked on that. Fantastic.
And also, the broadband utility is also looking very well. We are generating more revenues than we anticipated at this point. Quite a few contracts underway that will generate even more revenues. And
Fantastic.
thank you, Louis.
Louis?
The next report is a budget update for next year's budget, 16-17. This is what Scott was referring to earlier. We have determined a few adjustments that we would like to recommend that were not in the initial budget. The first one being we would like to convert county phones that are being utilized by fleet services into cell phone allowances. We are trying to get away from having the county-owned phones where we can and just use the allowances. That would cost, after you take out the cost of the county phones, $1,320 for the year. We do have an animal services reclassification. Scott, did you want to address that one?
This was one of the ones that we just found in the salary study. You can see that it's a current grade 16, but it's a supervisor's position, and the recommended grade was 21, so that was a little much for us to do as part of the salary study. But we've looked at this, and we've really made some, done some comparisons on it. we feel like it's the right thing to do. This is a 5 pay grade recommendation, but had we known this earlier in the year, it would have been part of our budget recommendation in promotions and reclassifications, because that's really what it is. And we have this one for you, and we may have one more. We're continuing to work right up to the wire on the promotions and reclassifications. Fortunately, the budget is balanced now, and we have a very healthy fund balance. I'm not trying to eat into that fund balance. I just want to make sure that I put a budget in front of you that's fair and equitable. Staff would just recommend that you just take these 2 items for, I guess, under advisement. There's really no action that
No,
at
it's
this
just for
point,
your
because
information.
you're going to approve the budget at a later time. These will be included unless you have issues with them.
That, for the general fund, that would be an impact of $8,558. We would just take that from the contingency that we had reported earlier, but you would still have a contingency of 2.23% of the budget. It was 2.24%, so that's all it impacted. The one other adjustment is in the fire services fund. You are aware of a proposal dealing with the restructuring there. This is a 2.5% increase on those reclassifications that we had already mentioned to you all to be effective January 1, 2017. The impact will be $24,805 to the fire services fund. Again, this is just for your information. We would like to put this in the budget to be adopted in June. Any questions about it or comments? Okay. The next item is your favorite report. That's the sales tax update. Remarkably, with some of the questioning you all have been doing, the March sales tax check was over $1.7 million, which has never happened before.
Ever.
Not the
Not
March.
in Christmas, not in a
Never.
Yeah.
booming year of the economy.
Thing.
Never had that much. Amazing what
What I found
Tires.
interesting is that it's 15.3% higher than last month and 4.62% higher than last March. So we'll see if we continue to,
See what happens in April.
we'll see.
If it's a trend. That's great.
The next 2 items are just reports for your information, your review. The April procurement report and then the investment summary, which shows how excess funds are being invested currently.
The revenue generated from government deals, that goes back in the general fund?
It actually, a lot of it goes back into the fleet fund, except for confiscated items. Those do go back to the sheriff. And any like IT equipment, that would go back into the general fund, but the vehicles and equipment would go into the fleet fund. Except for enterprise funds. If we sell something like for the water utility or stormwater, it goes back to them.
Right.
Most of the IT.
Now it is, yes.
Last one? Investment?
Oh, yeah, just the investment summary for your review.
Gentlemen, you have any questions? Any commissioner, public, or, well, anybody got a comment? Or do we have an executive session? Not. Our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, June 14th, 2016. Any other business to come before the committee? We stand adjourned. Start the next one and
How much time do you need, ladies? Couple minutes, 5 minutes? How about 10:30? We'll begin.
We adjourn.
So it is.
I was told we didn't have Christmas or anything.
Okay. Yeah, then I'm okay with that, too.
Time, Mr. Chairman.
oh yeah, little brother.
Yes, sir. And knock this together. All right. Thank you, everyone, for getting quiet. I call to order this meeting of the Development and Engineering Services Committee for Tuesday, May 10th, 2016. Having already dispensed with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, let the record show that we have a full quorum with all committee members present. We'll move right into approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. If you're so inclined.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Approval of the agenda, any adjustments, gentlemen?
Not to my knowledge, Mr.
I
Chairman.
think we're pretty well set today. No presentations, nothing on consent. Let's move right into debate and get down to the new business. Mr. Schlockter or Mr. Castle?
First I have for you is the Otis Elevator Service Renewal. This is the first year of that contract is expiring June 30. We'd like to renew this option for 1 year in the amount of $20,520. We do get a 4% discount for paying a one lump sum fee, so good option. So staff's recommend approval of this contract extension.
Move for consent.
Second.
So moved.
Next I have for you is the first option to renew bid 2014-008 for the exterminating service renewal. So this is with Busy Bee. This is a 1-year renewal extension. They did keep this pricing the same as last year. Staff is recommending renewing this option.
For consent.
Second.
So moved. Any questions? Next, sir.
Next one I have for you is a proposal from Georgia Power to replace the parking lot lights at Patriots Park. They want to change out the incandescent with LED, so it'll consist of 45 parking lot lights and 7 floodlights. No cost to Columbia County up front for this. We will continue to pay the same power bill we have been paying for these lights. This is just parking lot. This is not the field lights. So, but staff is recommending approval of this.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved. Thank you, sir. Mr. Castle, will you be running this hearing, or?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll move into our public hearing.
Yes, this public hearing is for the proposed establishment of streetlight districts for Whispering Pines Section 1, Phase B, and Linsmore Section 1, Canterbury Farms. Whispering Pines located off of William Few Parkway, and Linsmore is at Canterbury Farms, is located off the extension of Canterbury Farms Parkway off of Chamberlain Road south of I-20. Both petitions were developer generated. The public hearing was advertised in Columbia News Times, and letters were mailed to affected property owners. And I will now open the hearing for public comment. Having no public comments?
Anyone?
No public comments. I'll now close the public hearing for the proposed street light districts for Whispering Pines Section 1, Phase B, and Linsmore Section 1 at Canterbury Farms.
Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Next item.
Okay. I think the Deputy Administrator Schlochter was handling this, but I'll do my best at it. But essentially, this was the developer had a zoning condition to install sidewalks as part of the roadway project to serve the development. At final inspection, they noticed the sidewalks had not been done, and the developer would like to do a donation for future construction of sidewalks in lieu of the actual construction. Staff recommends acceptance of a $10,000 contribution and release of his performance bond and his letter of credit.
Move for consent.
Second with a question. The $10,000 will build the sidewalks?
Not all of them. He was just responsible for a portion in front of his parcel. So it was basically going to go 100 feet and stop. So instead of building this 100 foot of sidewalk and stopping, we asked if he would join forces with the county to extend the sidewalk the entire length of Baker Place Road to out of the school. So this basically covers his portion of the sidewalk.
Okay.
We're just not prepared to build at this time. We got a water line that's going out there. We're going to get the water line in place, then get the sidewalk on top of it so we're not wasting money.
Planning ahead, I like that.
We try every once in a while.
Yeah, good.
So moved.
Okay, variance from section 42-45 for flood standards and for subdivisions from tax map 006 parcel 186. This property is located off of Rance Perry Road. They're subdividing an overall 50.93 acre lot. And when a floodplain touches a larger tract of land, we typically require a flood study. However, no development is planned at this time. In the future, if any development is planned, we will require a flood study. Staff recommends approval of this request.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved. Transportation Investment Act.
Okay. Next request is a request for a supplemental agreement for our existing intergovernment agreements with GDOT for managing the TIA projects. This will allow us to acquire right-of-way as part of the TIA projects. The 3 projects we're looking for is Furys Ferry Road, Lewiston Road, and Horizon South Parkway. And this this approval will allow the chairman to execute these agreements as we get a pending favorable legal review of each.
Move to consent.
Second.
Okay. Next one is a project framework agreement for the Hardy McManus Road project that's being funded through the MPO. This basically is required for the county to manage any federally funded projects, and the framework agreement basically sets roles and responsibilities between us and GDOT. Staff recommends approval.
So in layman's terms, it's a state road that we're asking for permission to manage the project, is that what I'm hearing?
No, it's not a state road. We're getting federal funds to, Hardy McManus is a county road, but we're asking for federal funds to manage the project. This will allow us to manage the design work as well as the right-of-way and construction.
Move for consent.
Second.
Next item, sir.
Okay, next one is, item 6, is the engineering services proposal with Pond and Company to begin a feasibility study for the interchange justification report for Louisville Road at I-20. Looked at what GDOT, or not GDOT, excuse me, Fort Gordon is adding a new gate or moving their existing gate to the west, more towards Grovetown. We feel with the existing congestion, both proposed and existing at Bel Air Road and Lewiston Road, that a new interchange is probably needed to relieve Grovetown. So we're looking at I-20 at Louisville Road. This initial authorization will allow the consultant to collect data, begin the study, and bring us to a decision point instead of going through the whole study to find out that GDOT's not going to look favorable upon it. We felt we could get us to the point we could get with GDOT and FHWA and see if they would even consider it or just tell us, to buzz off essentially like they have in the past. But staff recommends going ahead and approving this initial authorization and move the project forward. If we do find a favorable, that the data and GDOT's looking favorable upon it, we will come back for a final feasibility study and request, and then move forward with a formal interchange justification report through GDOT.
Move for consent with a comment.
Second.
Mr. Cross?
Well, we'd like to compliment the staff for putting this together in a phasing position. If we reach a dead end at some point along, we're not obligated for the entire money. But if it goes well, we probably would be obligated for considerably more money to do the full study. So we want to make sure it's got at least a good chance of being approved before we go total into it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. So that moves on.
Okay, and
Item
then
7?
Item 7 is the streetlight districts that we discussed in an earlier public meeting for Whispering Pines, Section 1, Phase B, and Linsmore section at Canterbury Farms. Staff recommends approval and to forward this next debate agenda. You can't go on to the consent agenda.
Consent.
Yeah.
Yeah, move to debate.
Second.
So moved. Last item, sir.
Resolution 16-231. County's about to begin acquisition of right-of-way and easements for the Evans to Locks widening and multi-use trail construction. This resolution would allow us to streamline the acceptance of any donated easements or right-of-way as part of the project and authorize the chairman to execute acceptance of any donated parcels. Typically in a right-of-way, that would be the first thing you ask if they want to donate. If they don't, or if they do, then we'd have to go through a full approval process. This way allow the chairman to go ahead and execute those.
Move to consent.
So moved. Thank you very much, sir. Moving down, we'll go straight to planning services.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the acceptance of improvements and release of letter of credit for Hidden Creek sections F and G. Staff recommends approval, release of the letter of credit and acceptance of improvements for Hidden Creek F and G upon staff's approval of the as-built and warranty deed. 1-year warranty period. Date the as-built is approved.
Move for consent.
Second.
Next, sir.
This is the acceptance of improvements and release of letter of credit for Kalari Section 1B. Staff recommends approval and release of the letter of credit and acceptance of improvements for Kalari Section 1B upon staff's approval. The as-built and warranty deed, 1-year warranty period beginning the day the as-built is approved.
Move for consent.
Second.
So moved.
Next item is the acceptance of improvements for the Ridges Phases 5. Staff recommends acceptance of the improvements for the retreat at Baker Place, I'm sorry, for Ridges 5, Ridges Phase 5, sorry, there's a typo here, upon staff's approval of the final plat, as-built and warranty deed, with 1-year warranty period beginning the day the deed is recorded.
Consent.
Next item, sir.
This next item in front of you is a supplemental services proposal for the Uchee Creek Greenway Master Plan update. If you'll recall, previously authorized in February, staff to enter into a contract with Alta Planning and Design out of Greenville to undertake a revision to the Creek Master Plan update. At that time, one of the items in the proposal was an if authorized task for branding and wayfinding development. The Green Space Advisory Board feels like it's a really important component at this point in the development of the trail and the plan for the trail that we include this now, so that once we have that plan ready, we're ready to move forward with marketing and branding components and help us get farther down the road than we are now. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
So it's moved. Put your bibs on, everyone. It's time for meat and potatoes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a proposal for ordinance 16-16, amending Chapter 34, Article 3 of the Soil Erosion, Sedimentation, and Pollution Control requirements of the Columbia County Code. Proposed ordinance amends several requirements of Chapter 34 to establish standards for the new land disturbance permit process. Technical requirements of those revisions mirror requirements of state law. Staff recommends approval.
Speak on it, or you?
If any of the people that are in attendance today would like to address any of these particular issues as we go through them one at a time, through the hour of the meeting, I would ask you keep your comments concise and not repeat each other, but I do know that this is of direct interest to some people. I've also made Ms. Crawley, our clerk, aware that I'd like to have the minutes available to everyone in attendance later in the week, so you can look these over. And of course, our staff is always they're ready to hear any comments or questions you may have directly to them, as are we. Does anyone wish to speak? Yes, sir. And for the record, Mr. Ivy, please state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark Ivy, also president of the Builders Association of Metro Augusta. I just printed these off yesterday, so I have not gone through them in a lot of detail, but specifically on the soil erosion one, there's one or two things that I would like to comment on. One, it talks about under exemptions, section 34-68. The following projects are exempt, and it used to be that if a project was less than 1 acre, it was exempt, if I'm correct. Here it says project size is less than 100 square feet. So I wondered if that was a change or if it was something that I was misunderstanding there. And then also under section 34-69, paragraph C, it talks about violations. It says results in turbidity of receiving waters being increased by more than 25 NT. And in our clay type material, that's a very difficult number to achieve. And there again, it may be something that's in the state law already that I'm just not recalling. But those are the two things that jumped out. Also in here, it keeps referring to an LDP table, the CLDP table. And I don't have that table. It might be part of a different code or ordinance or something that I'm just not seeing. Then it talks about major land disturbing permits and what those are involved, but it doesn't really indicate or define that I've seen what's considered major, what's considered minor. So is there an acreage threshold that cuts that off and makes it major versus minor? And it talks about an application process for the land disturbing permit. If I'm correct, in the past, land disturbing permits were basically just done for overall neighborhoods, commercial sites, industrial sites, things like that. if I'm interpreting all of this correctly, it looks like it will also be enforced on residential sites or anything that disturbs more than 100 square feet, except for maybe a garden or something in your backyard. So just needing clarification on what that is involved. Also talks about bond requirements. So if you, I think further in another ordinance, it talks about an environmental bond of $3,000 per acre. And I assume that's a bond that the county wants in place to ensure that if something happens on that site, the county can take that bond and go stabilize the site. Where is that bond applied? Is it applied also on individual homes, or is it just on these major sites? Does it apply to minor sites as well? And then who is going to keep up with all the bonds and track of all of that, and how will that be managed? And again, it says, refers to LDP table. I haven't found that table. Plan phasing, it really itemizes more specifically plan phasing. This is in section.
You getting ahead of us a little bit there?
34-70, paragraph C, item 4. And the plan phasing that's listed here is really what the county was already looking for developers to do. It's just kind of got it itemized now. We would just like the opportunity to maybe look at that a little more. If I'm going too much detail, let me know. I'll stop.
No. I would encourage you to submit all of this in writing or email form, obviously, to our staff and let us, and you can feel free to copy me in, and any other commissioners who might be interested, and our staff can address them one at a time. I mean, if there's any immediate responses you might have about where you can find the table or something like that, that's fine, if you'd like to share that now.
Mark, you want to go one by one? Do you want to submit them? Do you want to?
Either way is fine. You know, I'm just looking to try to get clarification. This is all new to us.
Understood.
You know, the DAB was, I thought, put in place a year and a half ago to kind of flesh some of this out, and the DAB was eliminated, and all this now has come forward.
Yes, sir. And we do want to be as open and communicative as possible. This is a very long process, starting with this committee and going through several readings and possible adjustments as we move on. Again, if you have any immediate responses that you can answer, I really don't want to get into a long debate
Well,
this morning.
it may be better for me to just sit down with Matt, you know,
Right.
one-on-one, and that's fine. That's fine too. I just want y'all to hear some of the highlights of concerns that I have at least. I know there's others that have some concerns.
Certainly, sir. See, Mark, I would just put them down on paper, set up the meeting. If you'd like to address them in an email and copy us in, that'd be fine.
What is our timeline for these? There's several ordinance here, and my understanding is it goes through committee, then it goes to the next BOC meeting for a vote there, or a first reading.
First
and
reading.
then the
There's
BOC.
several parts if, yes.
Yes. Goes to a first reading, and if something changes, they'll have to have another first reading.
But we have basically until Tuesday night of next week.
Well, no, even beyond the first reading, we can make changes, obviously. We can, and we can reset.
And how much opportunity is there? Am I wasting my time to even try to suggest anything?
Well,
Or is-
certainly not when we get down to details and things like clarifying whether it's 100 feet or square. I mean,
Right.
that's, I don't think that's wasting your breath at all. I mean, we are trying to mirror the state standards here, so,
I think that 100 feet, that is a good one to look at. So
yeah.
I wanted people to get confused, having to do your soil and erosion plan, having an engineer do that plan to follow the 1 acre rule. The 100 square foot, that's just basically saying, hey, we're going to add a deck to the back of this house. We have several instances where we come upon, we're dealing with one right now. We have a storm line that needs to be repaired. There's a 2-story deck on top of it and a shed sitting on top of it. No permits where those decks were ever permitted or the shed was never permitted. Nobody came to say, hey, we're going to do this. We just need opportunity for a small project to look at it and say, we have a utility here, don't put it on top of our utility. So the land disturbance permit is basically if you're doing over 100 square feet, it's a very simple one-page form. This is what we're doing. might be completely exempt from everything else, just a notification process, basically an application process, so we're aware, we can let you know what we have in that area. You get into the major site grading, there is a delineation of 1 acre, so that's when you get into your full-blown soil erosion. Now for your development. We'll be happy to sit down and explain all that, and the LDP table, we did meet with Chris Driver and Aaron Meadows yesterday, and we went through this thing line by line, and they made some suggestions to clean it up to make it more readable. We made mention to that LDP table. Basically what it is, it's a flow chart that says, are you disturbing more than 100 square feet? Or are you within 200 foot of state waters? Yes or no? And you kind of follow that flow chart, and then when you get to the bottom, it says then all you need is a grading plan that you're going to show us what you're doing, or you're going to need a full-blown erosion sediment control plan. So that's that table. So our goal was to make it so anybody could walk in off the street, fill this permit out, and know exactly what they had to do, whether they had a clue how to do a development or not. It was very easy, step-by-step, yes/no questions to get to the kind of permits you need. So we'll make that available on our website. We'll pass it out. I think it's a very good tool to have that LDP
Table.
Yes.
So you hope to have that finished?
That table's complete.
Okay.
Table do. Yeah, I think
Okay.
the table's ready to go.
We'll be able to
Yeah, we'll
post
make-
that pretty
we'll
quickly.
Make sure that's added in.
Thank you.
And one last thing, section 34-75 lists an effective date of first day of September 2000.
Trying to sneak that one in on
There
you.
you go.
It's retroactive. to
Yes,
the-
everything for the last 6 years is retroactive.
Right. Mark, bottom line is, there are issues in the county, and the commission asked staff how would you fix these issues? So staff has come forward and said, this is what we recommend. Now, the commission realizes there are two sides to every story, and so we're at the stage, this is what the county says needs to happen. We need you guys to look at it and say, this works, this doesn't work, and then we're going to debate the issues, because if we have roads failing within a year, something has to change. If a house is falling down, then something has to change. And so we want to find the medium where it works for the county, it works for the builders.
And I think we as the building community understand that, and you know, all we ask is just to have a seat at the table, just to be able to offer some feedback from how these impact our industry.
Absolutely.
Well, this actually is how I believe the process is supposed to work, to be honest with you. I don't want anyone panicking, thinking that they just got news that this was coming up right now and this is it. It's set in stone. No, actually, this is the introductory process of how we propose ordinances. And that begins the conversation and the discussion, so.
We'd love
It
to
is the
provide
intent.
some comments and feedback, just so that y'all have that, and be happy to meet with anybody that wants any feedback from us, and we'll certainly be getting all that together and giving it to you in writing, not only on this one ordinance, but on all of these.
It'd be great.
In the interest of time, if anybody else wants to speak, they can, but as long as we have your understanding that you're willing to listen to our feedback, and we've got some time to be able to offer that feedback, I won't get up here and keep talking every time you bring another ordinance up, but just understand, there's a lot of us in this community that this is our home, and we understand what your goal is, and that's our goal too. We may just have a different roadmap to how to achieve it, and what I have found is it works real great when I can sit across the table from Matt, from Andrew, from Paul, from any of your division directors that you've got, and I can hear their side of the problem, and they can hear mine. You know, most of the time, we can come to a solution. Every now and then, we come to a crossroads where I don't agree or they don't agree, but most of the time, we can come to a solution. And I think that's what we need to try to do here, is let's just hear our feedback and see what y'all can do to make adjustments. Because there are a few things in these other ordinances that really will, when you talk about a 125% performance bond,
You think it needs to be more?
it doesn't need to be there at all. If you, just one quick thing, I'm going to sit down. Performance bond, right now when I go to a bank and I want to get financing to do a development, I approach that bank, I give them the project budget, they do an appraisal, whatever. They say, okay, I'm going to loan you $2 million on this project. And then I say, well, okay, I got to have a 125% performance bond too. They're going to say, okay, that's $2.5 million. That's $4.5 million worth of credit that they've now tied up for me on that project. And what I would rather see is something where maybe the performance bond is equal to what will eventually be the maintenance bond. Because really what you're looking for, and you've really already got it covered in the environmental bond, because you've got a whole other bond sitting over here that's the environmental bond. If something happens along along the way on that site and I walk away, then you want to be able to stabilize the site. Well, stabilizing the site really is covered in the environmental bond, but there may be some other, you may have to finish a sewer line run, or you maybe some other minor things that you might have to do. If a maintenance bond is going to be 20%, well, then let that performance bond be 20% as well, plus your environmental bond. And then it just all rolls from a performance bond to a maintenance bond. It's not a whole nother, because then I got to go, once I got my performance bond, and I get ready to do my maintenance bond, well, that's another line of credit that, so those are some issues that I don't know that staff may understand how some of that financing might work with some of these developments that we would just like to have some in. But thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me, and I'll get some comments to y'all in writing.
All right,
Thanks, Mark.
thank you, sir. I will tell you, staff has been working very hard on this. We've been working, some of those issues have been discussed, but would certainly like to hear from y'all's point of view on it as well. There is a reading before us.
Move to debate.
Second.
Is that the right?
I believe it is. So for a first reading, we'll move that to debate for the next commission.
All these will have to go to debate.
Yes.
Right.
Next item.
Oh, yeah.
Next item is ordinance 1617, which would amend section 34-1 to establish standards for major site grading. Just briefly, some of the salient points here. Major site grading is defined as any clearing beyond roads, stormwater BMPs, other utilities, or fill or excavation of 4 feet or more. A public hearing would be required by Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners. It would mirror the zoning process before approval of major site grading. If a site is approved for major site grading, 50-foot undisturbed buffer would be required around the mass graded site or the portion of the site mass graded. Sites smaller than 10 acres, so those infill sites, that buffer would be waived and would fall to the zoning ordinance buffer standards. Street trees would be required in those sections mass graded. A geotechnical report will be required, condition 24 inches below the proposed grade, sure the site is buildable once graded. Slopes no steeper than 2 to 1 and no higher than 20 feet. Slopes steeper than 5 to 1 are to be benched. The ordinance also specifies the fill material and requires a minimum compaction of 95%.
Move to debate. First reading. You have to say first reading.
Second.
No, it's automatic. And thank you, sir. Next.
All right, this next one is ordinance 16-22, which amends section 74-36C. Really just identifies bonding requirements and the time frame for approval.
Move to debate.
Second.
And if any of you do have specific comments about any of these, as we just said, it would be convenient to have everything put in writing, but I'll give you a minute or so if you had a direct comment about anything. No, please. Next item.
Next item is ordinance 16-18, would establish section 74-44, guarantee of improvements. That does include the 125% performance bond that Mark just spoke about, due prior to the preliminary plat approval. Once the as-built is approved, that would be reduced to 20%, which would be that maintenance bond requirement. Also, that section would require an additional environmental maintenance bond, which is Chapter 34 ordinance we just talked about.
Move to debate.
Second.
So moved.
Next item is ordinance 16-19, establishing section 74-45 maintenance bond. This sets the maintenance bond standards, the discussed. Maintenance bond in the amount of $5,000 or 20% of the estimated construction cost, or if you're using bridges, box culverts, or 48-inch pipes or greater, 30% of that cost, due prior to the acceptance of the infrastructure improvements for that warranty period.
Move to debate.
Second.
Next item is ordinance 16-20, establishing section 74-46 maintenance. This proposes a 3-year warranty period, maintenance period, and also sets the notification requirements that the county will undertake, as well as the notifications that the county will expect. No infrastructure will be accepted until the maintenance period has been satisfactorily completed.
Move to debate.
Second.
And last item, sir.
Next item is Resolution 16-1235, which establishes a fee schedule. Just some basic revisions to several fees that are existing, as well as the addition of the land disturbance permit fees. New process requires a new fee schedule. We would also establish, as part of this, a fee for development plan resubmittal after the third review. So you, with your original fee, you would get 3 review. Very few of our plans that we see require more than 3 review periods. I think the average is, over several years, is about 2.9. But we do have several plans that are, and several plans and several engineers that require additional review times. And so we're proposing that 4th review is 50% of the total plan review fee. Stem that extra time that the staff spends working back and forth on those extra reviews.
Move to debate.
Second.
How did you come up with the fee schedule? Yeah, I mean,
We,
a lot of comparison, a lot of benchmark.
a lot of comparison and benchmark, yeah.
Most of these ordinances, actually, are things that we have seen in other places.
No, this is stuff we didn't pull out of thin air. This is stuff that,
Right.
especially the bonding requirements, this is stuff a lot of communities do. It's one of those things I think that's maybe necessary.
And I understand there's already a motion and a second on this. Just make sure that everybody's clear that these also include building standards fees that were not included in Andrew's comments. And some of those fees are I would say are significant increases, but they are still less than some of the benchmark counties. But many of our benchmark counties, I think it kind of puts us middle of the road, but those are also included.
All right. That moves on. Thank you very much, sir. Any legal matters, Mr. Driver, for this committee? Well done. And staff reports from,
All right, I have several staff reports here for information only. The first would be the Development Services May 10th, 2016 report there. It just shows you where we stand as far as permitting, inspections. We're down, overall to date through the year compared to 2015 of about 42 behind on residential, but you can see from last year's numbers, April of 2015 was a very big month for us on permitting on residential. Commercial, on the other hand, is up tremendously from where we were in 2015. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions you have on that report.
I read about it in the newspaper.
questions? All right.
Next
Sure.
report is your financial report for April 2016, and that's for information only. If you have any questions, I'll get
Questions? Oh, my favorite report?
And the last one we have is the April 2016 temporary event alcohol permits. We have a list in there for you to look at. It's 18 different events that the administrator and I had approved for the month of April. Information.
Thank you very much. We'll take that as information. Planning Services, who is,
First report is the monthly report. If you have any questions, I'll be.
all right.
The next item is the plan review statistics monthly report. If you'll notice, March, our average plan review time down. Average plan review time, 7 days, down from 9 for the previous.
Well done, sir.
Great.
Any questions regarding those reports?
Nope.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Anything from staff or anything else from the public regarding this body? Seeing none. No executive session on our agenda today. The next scheduled Development and Engineering Services Committee meeting is Tuesday, June 14th, following immediately after Management and Internal Services. Same place, different time. I'll accept a motion to adjourn. We're done.
Go on.